you are able, and remain standing through the opening ritual. By virtue of the authority vested in me as Regent of Old Glory Chapter of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, I now declare this March 11th, 2025 meeting in session. To perpetuate the memory and the spirit of the men and women who achieved American independence, to promote the development of an enlightened public opinion, and to foster patriotic citizenship, these are the objects of our society, Daughters of the American Revolution.
Guard that which is committed to your trust. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. You shall remember all the way which the Lord your God has led you. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Please join me in prayer. I invite you to pray in your faith and tradition as I pray in mine. God of justice and truth, rock of our lives, bless our veterans and first responders. These men and women of courage and valor with a deep and abiding understanding of our profound gratitude. Protect them and their families from loneliness and want. Grant them lives of joy and bounty. May their dedication and honor be remembered as a blessing from generation to generation. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Color Guard, present colors.
To the right face, present colors, present arms.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in the American's Creed. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots sacrifice their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country, to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies. Let us repeat the preamble to the Constitution of the United States of America. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
The Old Glory Chorus will lead us in the national anthem.
Let's
white stars on a field of blue. God keep them strong and ever true. It is with pride and love that we salute the flag of Tennessee.
Thank you. Color guard, post the colors.
Post the colors. Left shoulder, arms, to the right, face, forward, march.
You may be seated. The DAR, founded in 1890 and headquartered in Washington, D.C., is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and education. DAR members volunteer millions of service hours annually in their local communities, including supporting active duty military personnel and assisting veteran patients, awarding thousands of dollars in scholarships and financial aid each year to students. We are pleased to welcome all of our visitors today. I welcome any new prospective member we have visiting. Make sure you check in with the membership table in the back. Today we are honored to have approximately 37 Vietnam veterans, a surviving spouse, World War II veterans, our American women veterans, and the family of a gentleman who sacrificed all for our country. Welcome to any first responders we have with us here today. We appreciate your dedication to our community. We also would like to welcome Mayor Ken Moore, and Mayor of the City of Franklin, and Rogers Anderson, Mayor of Williamson County. First Vice Regent Cheryl Mailer will now introduce our speaker.
Linda Moss Mines is the Vice Chairman of the Executive Board National Medal of Honor Heritage Center, the official Chattanooga-Hamilton County Historian, Secretary, Chattanooga Area Veterans Council, Trustee, Sergeant York Patriotic Foundation, East Tennessee Representative, Tennessee Cemetery Commission, Chairman, Chattanooga Parks and Outdoors Commission, and the immediate past chairman of the board, Arander Health Systems. Linda spent 47 years teaching U.S. history, AP U.S. history, AP U.S. government and constitutional law, with the last 27 years as chairman of the history department and Director of Community Involvement at Girls Preparatory School, Chattanooga. She speaks at over 200 educational, civic, and governmental events annually, reminding audiences of our Republic's goals of liberty, equality, and justice. Linda also authors a weekly history column for the Chattanooga Times, Free Press, and a weekly U.S. history column for a national history website. Governor Bill Lee recently recognized her with an honorary appointment as Colonel, Tennessee National Guard, for her service to veterans in Tennessee, his only such appointment. Linda, an honorary regent of the Chief John Ross chapter and former Tennessee DAR historian, shares her love of DAR with her daughter, Jessica, also an honorary regent, CJR, and her grandchildren, Noah and Rory, both state officers in Tennessee CAR. Linda's topic is Beyond the Glory, Medal of Honor recipients. Please welcome Linda.
Thank you all so much for having me here today. Fantastic, and good. We're going to make sure this works. Thank you for having me here. One of the things that I love to travel across the country talking about is the Medal of Honor, which is indeed our highest combat valor. One is never a winner of the Medal of Honor. One is a recipient, because the Medal of Honor recipients will tell you that while they may wear the medal, they wear it in honor of everyone with whom they have served in every conflict in which they have been represented. So, I don't normally stand behind a podium, so you all are going to have to get used to me bouncing around just a little bit. My first grade teacher very graciously on my report card, who had taught my father, on my report card said that I can make Linda sit down, period. I can make Linda be quiet, period. I cannot do both simultaneously. And very little has changed in all those years since then. The Medal of Honor technically is the highest award for combat. It was established by Abraham Lincoln and the U.S. Congress in 1862, and the first recipients of the Medal of Honor were indeed Tennesseans. Tennessee is the birthplace of the Medal of Honor. What you will find that with every Medal of Honor recipient that we look at, they possess 6 particular characteristics. I am brave enough to say that everyone who has put on the uniform of our nation, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, and now with our latest branch, the Space Force, everyone who raises their hand and takes that oath possesses those 6 characteristics. And they are commitment, courage, citizenship, sacrifice, integrity, and patriotism. And patriotism is love of your nation enough to be willing to serve to keep the Republic alive. So that's incredibly important for us to remember. So what you see before you is a picture of the general statue. How many of you are old enough to remember the Wide World of Disney that used to come on? Thank you, you are my people. Fess Parker, in a really famous movie called The Great Locomotive Chase, Fess Parker stars as James Andrews, civilian commander of the Andrews Raiders. Andrews was able to recruit 26 Union soldiers, convince them to go incognito, to put on civilian clothes, knowing that that automatically meant that if they were captured, they would be hanged as spies, to come out of their uniform and be in civilian clothes. And they put together a daring expedition where they had left Stones River, the Battle of Tullahoma, on their way to Chattanooga. Chickamauga had already been fought, and the Union Army had pulled back to Chattanooga. They get there, and then they infiltrate in small groups all the way to Big Shanty, Georgia. Big Shanty today we know is Kennesaw. And in Kennesaw, their plot was they were going to steal a locomotive. They were going to race north to Chattanooga, stopping to tear up the rails, burn all the bridges to make it so that the Confederate Army could not reinforce the Confederates that were on the hills overlooking Chattanooga. In fact, the story is that the actual engineer of the general, he and his firemen had gone inside the little restaurant at Big Shanty to have breakfast. And they're sitting there when the fireman looked out the window and said, "That train looks just like our train. That train is our train. Somebody has our train." And at that point, the locomotive chase was on. They commandeered a train called the Texas and gave chase to the general, to James Andrews and his men. And they did indeed stop, tear up rails, they burned bridges. The only problem they had not thought about, because none of them were really railroaders, is what powered locomotives in 1862. Steam. And steam comes from, that's why we have a fireman on a train, from burning wood, and guess what they ran out of? Wood. As a side note, had there been a woman in that group, we would have had the plan written out in a checklist, and it wouldn't have happened. And I say that with great affection to my gentleman friends, but that's just the truth. They get to Ringgold, Georgia, and they are forced to abandon the train. The Texas is coming along behind them. They head into the woods, and most of them will be captured. 8 will be hanged within days. A number of the others will be exchanged for prisoners of war that the Union was holding of Confederates. Others will be eventually furloughed and returned home. In 1863, the first medals of honor are presented to Andrews Raiders for exemplary combat in the field of battle, above and beyond the call of duty. Jacob Parrott of Ohio is the very first recipient. The most recent 2 recipients to receive the Medal of Honor are 2 of Andrews' Raiders. I was in Washington last November, and those were presented at the White House and then at the Pentagon. Their papers had been lost. The others had all received their medals 150 years ago, and those 2 Raiders received their medals just recently. So Andrews Raiders, the very, very first recipients. But I want to tell you a story about a Williamson County boy. And I don't know, how many of you know the story of George Jordan? George Jordan was born in Williamson County as a slave and lived here until the end of the Civil War, and at the end of the Civil War found himself freed but without land and without prospective job. And George Jordan joined the USCT, the U.S. Colored Troops, the U.S. Army, and almost immediately his captain, a white man, recognized that George Jordan was one of the smartest soldiers he had ever encountered. George Jordan could not read, he could not write. His captain taught him to read and write. He, in fact, in his notes in the records that are now at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, the captain says George Jordan, had he been born in a different place, would have ended his career as a general. That's how innately intelligent he was. He will rise to a position of first sergeant with the USCTs. He will go west, and someone said to him, you know, Jordan, why would you, a person who is not given full citizenship, choose to join the Army? And he said, the dream may not be mine, but the dream will be my children's. And he will serve for 30 years. He will be nominated twice on the frontier, once for a combat conflict that occurs in Arizona, then Indian Territory, one that would occur a little bit north of the New Mexico border. Nominated twice, he will be awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest award the nation gives. But George Jordan's story doesn't end there. I feel like George and I know each other because I think about him so much. George serves 30 years with the troops, retires, and with a fellow Buffalo soldier, he's part of the Buffalo Soldier Brigade, they buy a ranch in Kansas. And George, within about 3 years, becomes sick, becomes very, very ill, presents himself to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which was at that time the base of the Buffalo Soldiers, and he is denied medical care because of his color. He is told that if he wants to seek medical care from the U.S. government, that he needs to board a train and go to Washington, D.C. George Jordan dies before he gets to Washington, D.C. At that point, the governor of the Oklahoma Territory stages a territorial parade to honor his service, and he is buried at Fort Sill, the very fort that refused to treat his medical conditions. George Jordan's dream has not been totally fulfilled in our nation, but it will be if we continue our work. I think about George pretty much every day of my life. I want to also talk to you about another Tennessean. Most everyone, when we talk about World War I, Tennessee and the Medal of Honor, we talk about probably our most famous Tennessee Medal of Honor recipient. I started saying, I'm listing, yes. Alvin C. York. How many of us have seen the movie Sergeant York? Yeah, you know, and I love to tell folks, Sergeant York is my family. that's part of why I serve on the York Patriotic Foundation, is I serve with my cousin Debbie and my cousin Gerald, who is a retired Army colonel. But there were 7 other Medal of Honor recipients from Tennessee in World War I, and I love to tell Milo Limerick's story because he will get, those of you who are the mamas in this room, he'll get your heartstrings. So Milo is from Crossville, Tennessee, Cumberland County. He is buried in the Crossville City Cemetery. He actually had been born in Iowa, and his family moved to Tennessee when he was a young boy. So he graduates from high school there, joins the military, is part of the American Expeditionary Forces, across with General Pershing to France, and Milo becomes a sergeant. Milo is in charge of his platoon. They are under attack, and they are being picked off by the German snipers. Milo, as first sergeant, says, "This is my duty. I am going to take care of my men." Where are my sergeants in the group? Any sergeants in my veteran squad? You know, that tends to be what the NCOs do. They just charge out. He will cross a flat field, cross an 8-foot deep drainage ditch, back up the other side, and one by one by one by one, and on his 5th machine gun nest that he alone disarms between rifle fire and grenade, on the 5th, he is killed. That sort of courage is innate. That's where those characteristics, you don't think, you act. What makes the story even better is his younger brother is serving in the same unit with him. And to honor his brother, they allow him to be the one to bury Milo. So Milo is buried in France 3 years later, and that was true for so many of our soldiers who died during the Great War. 3 years later, he will be exhumed and brought home. 2 weeks after his death, his mother receives a letter from her son. And it says, "I'm not sure what's going to happen while I'm here. I only know that I hope to come home to see the green hills of Tennessee. If that isn't to be, just know whenever you hear the owl hoot that your son is reminding you he loves you." Okay. You know, tug at that heart. And then I want to tell you about the most recent living Medal of Honor recipient, who was a dear friend of mine by the name of Larry Taylor. Larry was a first lieutenant in Vietnam in 1968, a Cobra helicopter pilot. And those of you who know much about helicopters in Vietnam, Chinooks, Cobras, the different helicopters we had, the Cobra is 36 inches wide. So I want you to think about that. Think of a yardstick. That's how wide a Cobra helicopter is. One person in the front, one person in the back. It's like a large mosquito. My Vietnam veterans back there are going, yes, we know the sound of a loach or a Chinook or a Cobra by the whirling of their blades. Larry is a helicopter pilot, and he is attached to a group. He has Rangers on the ground. He gets a call from Sergeant Dave Hill, and Dave says, "We are surrounded." There are about 80 North Vietnamese have surrounded a 4-man team that was doing reconnaissance work, and we're going to die. And Larry says, "Hang on, I'm on my way." Now, the next part of it is where I would have died, because he said, "Run 80 yards north, set off your flares, I'll know where you are, I'll scoot down, I'll get you." I would have been saying, which direction's north? Give me a tree, give me a stop and go or something. Don't give me a direction. But he does that. But the story changes at that point, because Larry's colonel is listening on the comms, and he says to Larry, "Don't go. Don't go." And Larry said, "My men are on the ground. That's Dave and my men." And the colonel said, "I'm giving you an order. Don't do it." at which point Larry Taylor turned his comms off. He went to get those 4 men with rocket launchers being fired. He's sweeping down. He never touches the ground. Now remember, that helicopter is 36 inches wide. Dave Hill and one of the other guys get on the rocket launchers, straddle them, and hang on to the struts. The other 2 guys get on the runners, which have not touched down, straddle them, hang on to the struts, and they tell us aerodynamically Larry Taylor's helicopter should never have been able to get back airborne. He did. And Larry said it was because he wasn't taking orders from the colonel. He was taking orders from a person in higher command. They scraped the tops of the trees. In fact, Dave Hill is the only one who, of those 4 men, still surviving. He was with us in Washington, D.C. in September of 2023 when Larry was presented the Medal of Honor 56 years after the action. And that was because he had disobeyed a direct command. He had been nominated by 4 different officers for the Medal of Honor. It made its way all the way to the Secretary of Defense desk, but because he had disobeyed a direct order, it was tabled. We are very fortunate that Tennessee is the home of 4-star General U.S. Army retired B.B. Bell, and B.B. took it upon himself to correct a wrong, because what the records reflected, the reason that medal had not been granted was that the cost of the Cobra was worth more than the lives of the 4 men, because the Cobra was about $1 million purchase. Because Larry Taylor flew that Cobra, saved those 4 men, there are 27 living descendants of those 4 men today that would not be alive if Larry Taylor had not done that. Our most recent living Medal of Honor recipient, but the story doesn't end there. The medal was presented in September of 2023 to Larry Taylor, who had stage 4 lung cancer and was dying, and he died in February of 2024 as a Medal of Honor recipient, because courage is a treasure that keeps this republic alive. From the beginning of our nation, from our founding fathers in the American Revolution through every conflict since then, we are a free people because we have those who choose to stand on the line for us every day in places around the world that we don't even think about. We go to sleep at night, we wake up in the morning, and it is because of the men and women who have served this nation that we are able to do that. On March 25th, which is National Medal of Honor Day, I hope that each of you will take a moment to think about the 37 Tennesseans, the more than 3,500 Medal of Honor recipients in the history of this nation, the 61 who are now living. For my mathematicians in the audience, if you think of the 40 million people who've served in our armed forces since our nation was founded, and the fact that we have, since the Civil War, 20 million who served in our military, 3,500 plus recipients, if you do the math of that, that is less than 100,000th of 1% who have been recognized with the Medal of Honor. We are a proud volunteer state, and we are a proud and free nation. Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
I'd be glad to answer if anyone does.
Okay. We thank you so much, Linda, for coming to talk to us. We have a little something for you. Which one?
By the way, the 2025 National Medal of Honor Convention will be in Chattanooga in September, the last week of September, first week of October. The Medal of Honor recipients will all be there. Come visit us. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. They are wonderful.
It'd be a good time to come.
It would be a great time to come. You are so kind.
So this is a little gift in a bag with scraps from Quilt of Valors.
Oh,
And
love
a
that.
couple
Thank you.
gifts, which our treasurer handmade.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me as an Army widow and an Army mom.
I kind of wish Linda could talk a lot longer. That was so good. Thank you. I have the honor now of introducing Mayor Ken Moore and Mayor Rogers Anderson, who will be reading from the City of Franklin and Williamson County proclamations.
Well, it is indeed an honor to be here today and do the proclamation. Many of you know we have done this proclamation several times, but it is never too late to read it again, enjoy it again. And so Ken and I, both Vietnam veterans ourselves, will be embarking on this proclamation. Whereas the Vietnam Veterans Recognition Act of 2017 was signed into law by the President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
And whereas we proudly join, recognize, thank, and honor those U.S. military veterans, especially our local veterans, men and women of every background and branch of service, who answered our country's call to arms during the period of the Vietnam War.
Whereas to take note of the worn-torn chapter of our country's history that we should never forget or let it happen again, we renew our heartfelt commitment to those who have answered our country's call in Vietnam and around the world, as well as those who await the safe return.
Whereas the names of over 58,000 men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice are eternally memorialized in the plaque granted to the Vietnam War Memorial, the Wall, in Washington, D.C., we declare that they did not die in vain, nor will their sacrifice ever be forgotten.
Whereas no words or ceremonies will ever give full merit to their service, it is never too late to pay tribute to the living Vietnam veterans and their families.
And whereas the Old Glory chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution have joined together with the United States of America Vietnam War Commemorative Partner Program to honor the service, valor, and sacrifice of our living Vietnam War era veterans and their families through commemoration ceremonies.
And together, we call upon all of Williamson County to honor our Vietnam veterans. And I want to stop here, Ken, if you don't mind. If you're a Vietnam veteran, would you stand as I read this? Please remain standing. We just have a couple of more lines. We call upon all of Williamson County to honor our veterans, and particularly our Vietnam veterans, their families, and those that served.
And now, therefore,
I, Rogers Anderson, the mayor of Williamson County,
and I, Ken Moore, Mayor of the City of Franklin, do hereby proclaim August 12th, 2016 through November the 11th, 2025 as the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War throughout Williamson County, and offer our enduring gratitude to our Vietnam veterans.
Ken and I both, Mayor Moore and I both, have signed this proclamation. We have affixed the seal, and to those men and women that came back from Vietnam, welcome home.
Thank you, mayors. Copies of the proclamations will be in all the veterans' packets. Margaret Raynham, co-chair of Service for Veterans, will describe the meaning of the Vietnam War 50th commemoration pin we'll be presenting today. Thank you. Across the nation, Americans continue to thank and honor Vietnam veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. This Vietnam War 50th commemoration is a Secretary of Defense initiative authorized by Congress and launched by the President in 2012. Today, the Department of Veterans Affairs estimates there are 7 million U.S. Vietnam veterans living in America and abroad, among more than 10 million families of those who served on active duty from November 1st, 1955 to May 15th, 1975, regardless of location. The purpose of this initiative is to thank and honor veterans of the Vietnam War, including personnel who were held as prisoners of war, listed as missing in action, for their service and sacrifice on behalf of the United States, and to thank and honor their families, the families of these veterans. I am honored to explain the purpose of the commemorative pin you will be receiving today. The symbolism of the pin is especially important. The eagle represents courage, honor, and dedicated service to our nation. The blue circle matches the canton of the American flag and signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. The laurel wreath represents victory, integrity, and strength. The stripes behind the eagle represent the American flag. The 6 stars represent the 6 allies who served, sacrificed, and fought alongside one another. We are presenting the lapel pins with the message, "A grateful nation thanks and honors you," embossed on the back, closest to the heart of the wearer. Also, the official name of the commemoration is included to remind each veteran that this is a national initiative, and this lapel pin is the nation's lasting way of saying thank you and welcome home. Yes. Thank you, Margaret. Will the presenters please come forward? When I call your name, would you please step forward to receive your pin? Stephen W. Askew. Andy Blake. Oval Nelson Bryan III. Thank you. And I didn't mention Stephen served in the United States Army, Andy in the United States Navy, and Oval in the United States Army Reserve. Thank you. With the next 3, please step forward. Noble Carruthers, United States Air Force. Larry Darnell, United States Army. Walter J. Joey Davis, United States Navy. Thank you. Mark Erickson, John Dorland, Mark Erickson, Will E. James Finney. John Dorland is they're all 3 United States Army veterans. Scott Fisher, United States Army. Michael Fontaine, United States Navy. John Gilliam. John Gilliam is United States Army.
By yourself, but that's okay. David Gomez is here.
David Gomez, United States Army. John D. Harbour, United States Army. Wayne J. Higby, United States Army. William S. Hooker, United States Navy. Thank you. William D. Hunter, United States Army Reserve. Robert Johnson, United States Army. William B. Julian, United States Navy. Donald K. Knight, United States Navy. Mike Krupek, United States Air Force. Harold Lee, United States Air Force and the Tennessee National Guard. Thank you. Larry Mailer, United States Marine Corps. Gerald R. Mailer, United States Air Force. W. David McGee, United States Air Force. Stephen Milholland, United States Army. Ronnie F. Myatt, United States Army. Paul G. Newhouser, United States Army. James Wesley Jimmy Pate III. Unfortunately, Jimmy's not able to be with us today. Served in the United States Air Force. Harry Pierce, United States Air Force. Alan L. Rogers, United States Marine Corps and the United States Army. James Dale Schaefer, United States Army. Dale Schumann, United States Navy. William Walter Spencer, United States Navy. Frank A. Spivey, Joseph Taylor Stewart Jr., Mr. Spivey, United States Air Force, Mr. Stewart, United States Air Force, and Donald Thompson, United States Air Force. Sandy Kent Wall, United States Army. Donald Lee Yarborough, United States Navy. Dr. Douglas C. York, United States Army Reserve. Thank you. Anthony Wade, United States Navy. Richard Buring, United States Army. Rodney Huff, United States Army. David Carruthers, United States Army. Thank you.
Again, I thought he was cool.
Now we would like to recognize two surviving spouses, Jan Campbell Bosch and Linda Moss Mines. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jan had to leave. And now we'd like to recognize, in memory, Richard Lee Carruthers.
Would the family please step?
Would the family please step forward of Richard Lee Carruthers? Richard was born March 1st, 1945 in Franklin, Tennessee, fourth of 5 brothers. Richard was a private first class in the Army with the 1st Cavalry Division, 1st Battalion, 12th Cavalry, C Company. Richard sacrificed his life for our country December 17, 1966 at Bang Son, South Vietnam. Richard was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart and Bronze Star for courageous action, unselfish devotion to duty. At this time, we would like to recognize Richard and his family. We are privileged to have with us today 2 veterans who served in World War II. Would Jay Opie, who just turns 104 on the 21st of this month, and Willis Stobie Reynolds, who just turned 100. Please come forward as you are able.
Grandpa, wait, look at Carol.
Hey.
I am sorry to say that Willis Stobie Reynolds could not be here today because he broke his hip. So we wish him our best and his family. And last but not least, we would like to honor and recognize our women veterans who served our country. Geraldine Amos, Adrian Caldwell, Jan Edelson, Alice Jacobson, Shelley Jeffries, Lisa Kinney, Kathy Spencer Wayman, Delana Terrell, and Erin Watkins. Please all come forward.
Thank you to all the Vietnam veterans and their families. Our nation has been holding its applause for 50 years, so we want to say, welcome home. And I encourage you all to stand, cheer, applaud, and acknowledge these Vietnam veterans in a way they so richly deserve. Oh Glory Choir, please come forward. We will conclude today's program with a rendition of the United States Armed Forces Medley. You can sing along, and veterans, when you hear your anthem, please stand and be recognized. Everybody sing along.
Over hill, over dale, we will hit the dusty trail, as the caissons were rolling along. In and out, in the shop, down the march and all up, as the caissons were rolling along. For it's high, high, in the field artillery, shout out your numbers, loud and strong. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
have just a few announcements before we adjourn.
Don't forget to sign up for the state conference. Ask if you have any questions about it. The Lafayette exhibit will be at the archives just today and tomorrow. They close at 4:30 today if you would like to swing by to see it. It's a wonderful, wonderful exhibit. Looking ahead to May, we are hosting the American Revolution Experience Traveling Exhibition at the Williamson County Archives and Museum. Old Glory Chapter will host a public reception there on Saturday, May 10th for this exhibition. Our monthly meeting meeting will be at the Williamson County Archives on May 13th. The American Revolutionary Experience introduces visitors to a cast of historical characters with diverse experiences throughout the conflict and the places they visited on their journey. Old Glory Chapter is kicking off the Spring 2025 tour hosted by various DAR chapters across the state.
We're sorry, this is just not.
So we did have some slides to go along with all of this. Can we have a quick report of, Alice Johnson's going to come up and give us a quick report of the vote we had today.
Thank you, Madam Regent. Quorum is 45. We have 67 members present, 67 ballots were counted, and each candidate for office received a majority vote.
Thank you so much. Will all the new board members for the next term please stand? Thank you. And we have one more update, committee update for our spring event.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm excited to invite all of you to our annual spring event, and it's going to be at a wonderful place. A veteran, Willis Johnson, has given us his, 300 cars I think he's got in this beautiful museum of classic cars. It's going to be April the 12th, and we invite all of you, your friends and family, to come. Tickets are on sale today. You can buy them out there at the front, and Jan Annelson will help you. We will have an auction, and we will have a live auction. We have all kind of wonderful things that are happening throughout the year with Old Glory. This fundraiser helps us pay for not only this room, but all the other special events that we do throughout the year. So it's very important. We appreciate your support. Even if you cannot be there, you could give us a check. But we will have the opportunity for you to buy some fabulous items at our auction. And Jill Boyle is at the back, and she can help you if you have any questions about that or if you want to make a donation to that. The theme this year is What a Ride, From Horse to Horsepower, the celebration of the 250-year anniversary of Paul Revere's historic ride. Everyone will enjoy seeing these 300 classic cars, and I think maybe more, but it's an amazing museum. What a treasure, like nothing else you've ever seen. Truly, it'll be a night of fun with friends and family. We also will have a delicious meal from Jim and Nick's Barbecue. Promise you won't leave there or go hungry. We'll have our first ever live auction and some very special auctioneers. There is more to come. I don't want to tell you, there's a little bit of a surprise that night. So make your plans for a wonderful time, and we'll see you. What a ride.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. Now I'd like to ask Chaplain Jan Barnett to come up and give us a closing prayer.
Dear God, we ask you to bless the members of our armed forces and all of our veterans that are here with us today. Give them courage, hope, and strength. May they ever experience your firm support, gentle love, and compassionate healing. Be their power and protector. Bless all of gathered here as we leave here and head on to the rest of our day and our week. And thank you for this beautiful, beautiful tribute to honor the sacrifices of our veterans here today. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming today to help honor our veterans and their families. I invite the veterans and their families to move to the back of the room. The first order of business is a veterans group photo. If you could gather below the flags on the back wall. Then please enjoy some refreshments, and you can have some individual and family photos also. I now declare this meeting of the Old Glory chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution adjourned.